Well, hey family, whether you're watching right here in Summerville or anywhere for that matter, we are so glad that you're with us this week for Ashley Ridge at Home. My name's James. I'm the worship and creative director here at Ashley Ridge, and we are thrilled because you picked a great week to tune in. We're kicking off our brand new November series called Greater Than Grateful with Pastor Jen, and we're going to explore this idea of gratitude and what that means all month long. And I don't know, maybe you're new to our church family here, or maybe you've been coming for a while, but you don't have an Ashley Ridge worship album. We would love to send you a free CD. So here's what you need to do. Really simple. Pull out your phone right now. Text the keyword free CD, that's keyword free CD, to this number that's going to be right here on the screen. And we would love to mail you an Ashley Ridge worship record. Well, hey, we're going to get things started this morning, but before I go, I did want to let you know that we're so excited. Our Christmas services are in motion and have been planned, and they are happening. And we've got tons of awesome things that are coming for kids, for students, for adults, Christmas Eve, and all through the month of December, and some things even in November. And all that information is going to be coming soon. Our website, our app page for Christmas, all these things are going to launch real soon, and we can't wait to share those details with you. So stay tuned. Make sure you're on our email, getting our monthly updates. Subscribe to those and download the Ashley Ridge app. But y'all, let's go. Here's Pastor Jen.
Hey everyone, we have made it to the month of November. I'm standing out here. It's a beautiful fall morning. We got a little bit of a taste of cooler weather this week. The colors are changing, and we've reached the time of year where we have the November buzzwords of grateful and thankful. Now, to be clear and to be fair, I am not knocking it. I actually love Thanksgiving. I actually think that Thanksgiving should be more than a day. It should be a season too. Before the Christmas season starts, we can fight about all that later. I really don't care when you put your decorations up. However, I love that we carve out some time. You like how I use the word carve there? We carve out some time to talk about being grateful and thankful. One of the things that we've seen a lot in recent years is people will take the month of November on their social media channels and put out something every day of, this is something that I'm grateful for. And so if you're doing that, that's awesome. If you're not doing it, maybe consider it. Think about how you can spend some intentional time with the people around you, thinking about those things. I'll be real honest, this year more than ever, it feels important. Last week I was away with my mom and my sister, and my mom made us do this exercise at one point. She said, okay, girls, let's think about the good that has happened in 2020. And after looking at each other for a few minutes, scratching our head, we did, of course, realize that there was a list to be made. So here we are in the month of gratitude and thankfulness, something that hopefully we highlight this month, but that exists all year long. One of the expressions that has become quite popular is having an attitude of gratitude, something I tell my kids all the time. I need you to fix your attitude. I need you to have an attitude of gratitude. And not only is it important and not only is it helpful, but we've talked about this before actually, studies show that you can't feel fear or anger at the same time as you are feeling gratitude. Did you know that? I think that's actually extraordinary. The way we're wired and the way that our brains work is we cannot simultaneously experience fear and anger and gratitude. And so in many ways, gratitude becomes this incredible antidote to the fears and the anger that tends to catch up with us. So not only is gratitude something that we know is good for us and something that helps us in this world, but it's also something that Scripture very consistently tells us to practice, right? Psalm 104, it says, "Let us enter his gates with thanksgiving in our hearts and his courts with praise." And then Paul follows it up in 1 Thessalonians and he says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for us." This is God's desire for us, is that we would be grateful, thankful people. But I've also noticed, and I'm sure you have too, that gratitude is not something that comes easily. It's not something that we come by naturally. It's not something that's inherent in who we are. We all know this. We're actually, and this is all of us, so I'm not pointing any fingers here. We are selfish by nature. There's no hiding the fact that as kids are learning to speak, some of the concepts they learn quickly and early are me, mine, and no. They are protecting what they see to be theirs. They're fighting for themselves as they learn to function in this world, which is why gratitude becomes one of those lifelong learning kind of things. So we teach kids about gratitude. In fact, all this month in AR Kids, we're talking about gratitude. So if you have a kid, please, please, please be tuning in online. We've got great content on our website and on our YouTube Kids channel. But we have some great stuff that we're doing in person too, talking with our kids about gratitude. But we know that as adults, it's a lesson we have to keep learning. But do you ever think about some of the ways we teach it? And this is what's really interesting, and I'm going to pick on myself here. So many times when we start to teach gratitude, mostly by accident, we tend to introduce the concept of comparison. Here's an example. When your kids don't want to eat their vegetables, what do you end up saying to them? You need to eat your broccoli because there are some kids who don't have any broccoli to eat or any food to eat. Have you ever said those things to someone in your life? Or what about this one? You need to clean your room because you need to be grateful that you have a room, because some people don't have a room. Can you think of other examples of this where we teach gratitude, but we do it through the lens of realizing what we have that not everyone does? And now this can be a little bit helpful, but do you see how quickly the reverse can happen as we grow older? Our ingratitude seeps in the moments where we realize how other people have things that we don't have. There's a little bit of a trap that happens with gratitude, especially when our gratitude begins and ends around this idea of comparison. I'm going to give you another example, and this one is going to pick on Christians a little bit, some of you and me, and some of the things that we've done historically as a church. One of the things that we've done in this church and lots of churches are mission trips. Now, again, to be clear, I think mission trips are great. And I think when they're done well, they are incredibly important. Important for us to have a global perspective and even a local perspective of the people around us and how we can help and learn about one another. But one of the things that happens a lot of times when it comes to doing mission work is we have this thought process, and again, I'll think about it in terms of even how we want to teach our kids, is we use it as a training ground for people to see what other people don't have, in the hopes that it will make us grateful for what we do have. And unfortunately, it puts us in a position of kind of trying to show up as the people who have to the have-nots. And I'm going to share with you that I've been on a number of mission trips, and the best experiences I've had are the ones where I truly have come back with a sense, not of what I have that others don't, but of what they had that I don't. And among the greatest things I've run into is gratitude. But it doesn't always connect when we think about it in terms of being grateful for something because we might not have it. Here's where I'm going with all this. I want to ask you a question. Gratitude is a good thing, and it is. What if there is something greater than grateful? What if gratitude is a good thing, but is also, at its best, meant to be the launching point into something even better? What if gratitude is not the end goal, but the starting line? And to talk about that question, I want to go to a story that Jesus told his friends. It was in the midst of several stories that Jesus was telling. Jesus liked to tell stories to try to help illustrate and help explain things that were so different from the world that we were living in. And this particular story is one that Matthew captured. And they were interesting stories, and I can just imagine that Matthew was so caught up in this being a story that they were going to need to remember, particularly because this came in the midst of several stories Jesus was telling about when he would return. Now, they still didn't have their heads around the fact that he was going to leave. So the fact that Jesus was telling all these stories about the fact that, yes, he would leave, but that one day he would return to introduce the fullness of the kingdom of God. And so this occasion, as Jesus is telling all these stories to his friends, he starts out about talking about how the day and the hour is unknown, and then he tells a story about a wedding, and then he gets to what is maybe his third example in the bunch. And here's the story he tells. I'm in Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. So starting in 14, he says this. Again, telling all these stories, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. All right, now don't miss this, okay? This man was going on a journey, and in going on a journey, he didn't take all of his possessions with him. He didn't put everything into a safe. He didn't organize his affairs so that they would just be tucked away until he returned. It says that he entrusted his wealth, and in fact, it was all of his wealth to his servants. This would have been incredibly unexpected. This was not typical in those times that someone who had means would leave them and trust them to others in their absence. And not only that, when we start to find out exactly what this wealth was and how much he left, if you translate it into today's currency, we're talking about millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Okay, so are you with me? Jesus tells this story. And so he says, here we go. We've got this really rich guy, and he's about to head out of town. We don't know where, we don't know why, but he is going to leave all of his millions in the hands of his servants. Now, to one, he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. All right, now here we're already introducing the trap of comparison. Right away, we hear that, and we hear one got 5, one got 2, and one just got 1. And our brains immediately start to get uncomfortable with where Jesus might be going with this story, because we start already to play into this idea of unfairness. Well, what do you mean someone got 5 and another one only got 1? See how quickly we've forgotten the fact that it's weird that any of them got anything? that none of them was in a position to have expected or earned that kind of trust or resources. But right away, and you can tell even as Matthew's telling the story, he doesn't know a way around it. And so he tells us one got 5, one got 2, and one got 1, not according to their good lookingness, but it says according to their ability. This is a little awkward, feeling a little uncomfortable about who has what abilities. Because again, we start to go to this place of, so some people had greater ability than others? Or was it that they had different abilities than others? I'll keep going. So then Jesus says, so then the man went on his journey. Now the man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once, and he put his money to work, and he gained 5 bags more. You see how quickly it became his money, all right? So he went, put his money to work, and he gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. And after a long time, the master of those servants returned, and he settled accounts with them. So again, remember, Jesus is telling stories to illustrate the fact that he is going to return. He is going to return, that we are experiencing some of the kingdom now, but Jesus is going to return and invite us into the fullness of the kingdom of God that has been made available to us. And he's trying to find a way to describe it. And here's this master returning. So after a long time, he returned to settle accounts with them, to see how things had been handled in the meantime. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold, and see, I have gained 5 more. And his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful, it's a key word, with a few things. So I will put you in charge of many things. Come and be at my party, right? It says, come and share your master's happiness. In other words, I'm having a party. I'm celebrating all of the riches of what I have, my return back home, and you're invited. Come and celebrate with me. And then the man with 2 bags also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold, and see, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things, so I will put you in charge of many things. You also should come to my party. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. It's about to be different. Are you ready? Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. Do you know those moments when you know, especially in the world of comparison, when you start to hear other people's stories and something starts to creep in that there's something different about yours? And so even before he introduces what he's done, he starts out with some explanations. He starts out kind of making excuses for where he's about to head. Now, here's the thing. This master might have been harsh, and maybe he did scatter things where there weren't things. On the other hand, the only other thing that we know about this master is that he very generously included other people in his wealth. That not only had he done well and acquired this wealth, but he had included unnecessarily other people into it. We have to pay attention to what's going on here. And so this guy says, you know, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you haven't sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. Remember how I said that fear and anger cannot exist in the same place as gratitude? We didn't hear necessarily that the 5-bagger and the 2-bagger were grateful. However, they didn't get caught up in fear of what might happen. They went out and started to work. Whereas this one says, I was afraid. You see, I didn't live or start in this place of being grateful to have anything. Instead, I got stuck in this place of fear. I was afraid, and so I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. And then he tries to make this good. So see, here is what belongs to you. I didn't lose it. I kept good care of it. I knew where it was the whole time. And so here you go. It's all yours. His master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money, and this is kind of one of those moments of, you should have at least, right? If that's what you thought, true, not true, indifferent, if that's what you thought, then at the very least, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. Now here's where it gets really harsh. He says, so take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. Really? For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. And whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Whew. If I'm the disciples, if I'm Jesus' friends, I'm not super comfortable in this moment. You know, Jesus, can we go back and talk about grace? Hey, remember that time you told us about forgiveness? Can we talk again about healing people and all these kinds of things? Like, this doesn't feel good. We don't like that the punishment, that the consequence in this story feels so intense. But let me ask you this. How many times have you heard stories of people who reached what they knew to be close to the end of their life? And as they start thinking through their life and what some of their regrets might be, they start to grind their teeth and pull on their hair of the moments they missed and the things that they wish they had done more with what they had. You don't usually hear people bemoaning all the things that they never got, but the fact that they didn't make the most of what they already had. Jesus says this is what happens. This is where this leads. And so I want to go back to this idea of what Jesus told the first two with the 5 bags and the 2 bags that became 10 bags and 4 bags. He didn't say to them, there wasn't any conversation about gratitude. You were grateful for what you had. We kind of make an assumption that they were because they got busy. Instead, what Jesus highlights in this moment is the fact that they were faithful. And in this context, because faithful tends to be a word that gets a little bit wrapped up in our Christianese, faithful in this context is another word for responsible. Jesus says, you were responsible with what was given to you. You see, this money that was being hidden was equivalent to you and me trusting, hiding any of the things that have been entrusted to us. And money is just one of those many things, right? Because what we know is that everything we have has been given to us by God. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And so everything we have is something that has been entrusted to us by God. And the story that Jesus tells goes to great length to make the point that God is not very happy when we take what he gives us and we hide it instead of use it. We protect it instead of make it useful beyond ourselves. You see, gratitude, when we're not careful, becomes a starting point that can launch in to some of the most incredible opportunities of our life. Look what I have and what I can do because of it. But when we stop at this idea of look what I have that not everyone has, so I better hold on to it. I better not lose it. Then we start to take away the very idea of the fact that what we were given, what was given to us, was never meant to be only for us. See, God invites us into this incredible story where He is redeeming all things. And He invites us to be in it. He invites us to be heroes. He invites us to be active and alive and in it with Him. But what's at stake in so many moments of our lives is, are we going to miss the opportunities of what's possible, protecting what is? Do you see where gratitude starts to become the beginning and not the end? Gratitude is a great thing, but there is something greater than grateful when what we have becomes an opportunity to live a life that is bigger than ourselves. What are you doing with what you've been given? I hope you're grateful for it. I hope I'm grateful for it, because sometimes I am not. I have a whole lot of moments where I get stuck in the what I wish I had. What I wish I had instead, what I wish I had at all, what someone else has that seems like a better ability than the ones I have, or the ones that I might prefer to the ones I have, to the opportunities, to the places. We so quickly and easily get stuck in comparison. And what that keeps us from every time is doing something with what we have. Gratefulness, if we stop there, can become selfish because it becomes inward focused. But responsibility takes what we have and focuses it on something greater, for someone and something bigger than ourselves. Let me say that again. Responsibility takes what we have and focuses it on something greater, for someone and something bigger than ourselves. To say it differently, what you have or don't have, but what you have matters way less than what you do with it. What you have matters way less than what you do with it. And here's the really tricky thing, and I'm just going to be honest about this one too, because I'm already stepping all over your toes in this. We have lots of opinions about what other people should do with what they have. Do you notice that? We're really good at spending other people's money. My kids are amazing at spending my money, and we're really good at thinking about how other people should spend their money and how other people should spend their time and how other people should use that ability that God's given them to be good at this thing or that thing, or to have this gift or this skill set or this position or this privilege. We're really good at seeing what other people have and thinking this is how they should use it. But are we missing the fact that God has given generously and unnecessarily to each of us according to the abilities that He's also given us that aren't the same as the abilities that He's given to everybody else? What are you doing with what you have? What's unique about the seat that you sit in? What's different about the place where God has put you right now? What is your 2020 story that's not necessarily the same as everyone else's 2020 story, for good or for bad? And how might God use it? How can God take, because this is what God does, remember, he's in the process of redeeming all things. How can God take all of those things and use it for good? Because that's what God does. That's what God does. He doesn't give us all the junk, but God can take all of it and use it for good. The question is, are we paying attention with what to do with what we have? Are we willing to be responsible and not simply grateful? Y'all, gratitude is good. I'm glad it's November. I can't wait to eat turkey and all the other things. All the other things. Gratitude is good. But it becomes great when it gives birth to responsibility. Our efforts shouldn't come from obligation. We shouldn't decide to be grateful because we're obligated, because we've noticed that we have more. Do you ever, stop and think about the guy with 2 bags. He could have gotten really caught up in the fact that I got more than this guy, but still a lot less than that guy. Or he could have gotten just caught up with, I've got more than that guy, so I better do something with it, or else I'm in trouble. But what if instead we arrive at a place of gratitude that then becomes the opportunity to do something amazing because we get to? We talked about this a lot. Not because we have to. Get rid of your have tos. You don't have to do anything. You get to. You get to live this life that God has given you. You get to love right where you are, even when it hurts. You get to show up for people because you can. I get to do my kids' laundry. And I'm going to be grateful because a day will come when they're not there for me to do their laundry. We get to. And so here's my challenge. We're going to keep talking about this in some different ways the next couple of weeks. But my challenge to you this November is to dream about what could be even greater than grateful. What can we do with all that God has given to us? Let me pray. God, you've given us a lot. And no matter how many times we try to write it down or make lists or stand around a table with family and friends and share those things, we don't come close to capturing all the things that we have to be grateful for. Ways that you have interceded and intervened for us that we didn't even realize. And so God, it's not enough, but we still want to say we're thankful. We are entering your presence each and every day, and we want to be thankful, knowing that you love us and you make our lives possible. But God, we also want to be captured again by the fact that you give us things on purpose. You give us things with an opportunity to be active and part of what you're doing to redeem all things, to make things new, to bring things closer to you. And so God, help us to ask the next question. Help us to not ever stop at gratitude, but instead to move into responsibility of how do we get to be part of it? What can we do with what you've trusted in our hands? God, would you make us faithful? Make your church faithful in these hours and in these days. We ask for that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
He's coming on the clouds. Kings and kingdoms will bow down, and every chain will break. His broken hearts declare His praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? 'Cause our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. And our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Whoa. So open up the gates. So open up the gates. Make way before the King of Kings. Our God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? And our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. And our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. For who can stop the Lord? For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Yeah. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? We sing. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Yeah. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? And our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. And our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him.
Bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name still, call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. And Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, call these bones to live. to sing once again. I will praise in Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. And Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive and forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. And your name is a light that the shadows can't